Good evening, America. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? When the very forces that tried to destroy a man suddenly find themselves in the crosshairs? Well, tonight we're going to reveal shocking insider details about President Trump's second term that have Washington insiders panicking. One of his fiercest critics has made a stunning admission that changes everything we thought we knew about this administration. The deep state spent 4 years trying to break him, or even longer, really. But did their relentless attacks actually forge something far more dangerous to their existence than they ever imagined? Well, the revelations you're about to hear will not be reported anywhere else, so stay with us. And as we step into 2025, one thing is clear: de-dollarization is not stopping. It's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the U.S. dollar and establish themselves as global economic superpowers. What is their secret weapon? Well, it is gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold, and you know what's even more telling? They underreport their buys. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, it's reliable, and immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries, they want to be prepared. They just don't want it known. So you need to prepare like they are. Go to the link in the description, nextnewsgold.com, or call that number, 877-646-5347. Tell them Gary Franchi sent you, and ask them how you can get 10 1-ounce silver coins. Okay, yes, the deep state is crumbling as Trump's second term demolishes the globalist agenda. Courts overstepping, border invasions, and the leftist meltdown you won't see on mainstream media. The truth is desperately trying to be hidden. There is our great president celebrating Easter. I believe that is at the Easter egg roll earlier today. We'll have more on that later. But here's the bombshell. And Coulter, remember her? Yeah, she's suddenly back in the spotlight. Remember how she was a big supporter of Trump, and then all of a sudden she flipped. She became one of his biggest critics. Well, Ann Coulter reveals how Trump's first term was hijacked by Wall Street puppets, Kushner and Cohn. She confronted him in the Oval Office, but the deep state had him surrounded. The swamp was too deep the first time around. Listen.
The immigration stuff program was a couple months before the 2024 election. As we sit here today, close to 100 days into the second Trump administration, what do you think these first 100 days will be remembered for?
The most wonderful 100 days in United States history. I can't believe how great Trump is. If you've followed my work assiduously, you know I campaigned with Trump when he was running in 2016. He did ask for a copy of my book, Adios America. A lot of the immigration stuff came from that. Huge fan. I was ecstatic the night he won. And then he hired Jared Kushner and Gary Cohn and turned the keys of the kingdom over to Wall Street. And it was basically, you know, Jeb Bush. So I gently encouraged him to go back to the great stuff he had campaigned on. I showed up in the Oval Office. I didn't release this, but it came out. I think the yelling and cursing was so loud in the Oval Office about 3 months into his first term, and just yelled at him. And I wasn't the first one to use the F word, but oh boy, did that fly, because he wasn't keeping his promises on trade, on anchor babies, and especially the wall. I say that to say I think we're actually kind of lucky that he lost in 2020 and that the left spent 4 years absolutely persecuting him, prosecuting, I mean, the absurd things they went after him and his supporters for. And apparently that made him mad. So term 2, I'm getting everything I voted for.
Program was a couple.
Well, isn't that interesting? She's coming around. She makes a stunning confession, too. The left's 4-year war against Trump backfired, and their persecution made him angry. Now we are getting everything.
He wasn't keeping his promises on trade, on anchor babies, and especially. So term 2, I'm getting everything I voted for. I mean, even more. I can't believe it. Every day, it's things I didn't even think of. Yes, the water pressure in the showers, the toilets, the going after the universities, the anchor baby executive order, which I understand as of yesterday will be going before the Supreme Court. Very happy about that. Congress should pass a law to make it permanent, but hopefully the Supreme Court will rule the right way, because I believe the law, as I described in Adios America, is absolutely clear on that.
Okay, keep plugging your book, Ann. Thanks. We got nuclear truth bomb, too. Trump steamrolling through D.C. like a patriot wrecking ball. DEI, tariffs, law firms, courts, UN, FEMA, FDA. Nothing is safe from Trump. The globalists are panicking. And check out CNN.
All 11. Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive. Deport.
Yeah. And Coulter, she's back, confirming that Trump with J.D. Vance is unstoppable. She went from a Trump critic to an ecstatic supporter.
Trust Trump. And you know, truthfully, I really like his choice of J.D. Vance, which I had recommended back in May. Can't trust Trump as far as I can throw him, but I do trust J.D. Vance to care about the left behind people.
And Coulter,
She still says she doesn't trust him. Wow.
what was it that caused this change from your opinion to today? Was it a J.D. Vance pick? Is it the people that Donald Trump is surrounding him with? Or is it he's just unexpectedly running the country different than he did last time?
Oh my gosh, is it different? I mean, all of those things. But apparently you don't want to make Donald Trump mad because I mean, I don't even want to remember the things I didn't like about him first term because I'm so ecstatic second term. But, you know, I mean, he won in 2016 with regular Americans, with the working class, with the left behind, with people like me and all of my friends in New York who've been waiting for a Republican candidate or any candidate our entire lives to run on the basket of issues that Trump was running on. No more permanent wars, immigration.
Yeah, she's really trying to climb back into Trump's good graces. I don't think it's going to work, though. She does drop some more truth bombs, though, about the corrupt courts, forgotten their role. Listen.
Law. I think all Americans have lost sight of, because the Supreme Court's kind of lost sight of it, and that is the Supreme Court, all courts, are not supposed to be writing law. They are not supposed to be writing policy. What they are doing is deciding cases between two people, or institutions, the parties. And that's it. They are ruling on a case between two parties. So, for example, quick, easy example, the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision, or race discrimination decision, a couple of years ago against North Carolina and Harvard. Technically, the court's ruling applied only to North Carolina and Harvard. But by implication, that meant other universities probably shouldn't keep discriminating on the basis of race, because you could just keep taking those cases up to the Supreme Court. But it wasn't announcing a policy the way Congress can write a law. And people have forgotten that. I think.
She also exposes the lie about Clinton having absolute power to send a child back to communist Cuba despite court wins. Remember that? Elian Gonzalez
had won in court. So, for example, under Clinton, Janet Reno and Bill Clinton sent a poor little 8-year-old boy back to a communist dictatorship. And the families had won in court. The father he was being sent back to was not married to the mother under standard, American state law on that. He didn't have rights to the kid. But courts ruled, nope, immigration is totally up to Bill Clinton. If they want to send the 8-year-old boy back to a communist dictatorship, they win over state law. That Arizona, I won't go through all of them, but that famous Papers, Please law by Arizona, written by the magnificent Chris Kobach, denounced right and left. It was the Papers, Please part of that law, and that was when Arizona law enforcement officials, if they pull over someone for a reason, and he seems to be, they have probable cause to believe it's illegal, they can ask for for him to prove his citizenship. And by the way, immigrants are required to carry papers with them. That's been the law for a long time, and hold him. So their position was, okay, Obama is not enforcing federal immigration law written on the books. Obama has decided not to follow it, but we're going to follow it. We won't go beyond federal law. Goes up to the Supreme Court, and they say, nope, if the president doesn't want to follow immigration law, well, that's his prerogative. Plenary power. So those are just a few examples of this is 100% in the president's presidential powers. The district courts do not have authority to do this. And just one other quick point on that. Something that I think all Americans have lost sight of, because the Supreme Court's kind of lost sight of it, and that is the Supreme Court, all courts, are not supposed to be writing law. They are not supposed to be writing policy. What they are doing is deciding cases between two people, or institutions.
And she gives another history lesson. When Clinton sent an 8-year-old to communist Cuba, the court said fine. When Arizona tried to check citizenship with papers, magnificent, she says. That was interesting how she brought up Elian Gonzalez. I didn't think about that, but I do recall that famous photograph of that immigration SWAT team and finding Elian being held in a closet by his father or family member or whatever it was. Where was the left outraged then? No, I mean, that was when Bill Clinton did it. And here we have this. Senate rhinos betraying Trump by considering tax hikes on Americans making $1 million. The uniparty never learns. Here is Senator Kennedy.
Tax rate on wealth. Let me switch gears here a little bit, ask you about President Trump's agenda, because I know you all are going to be very focused on that. Senate Republicans split right now, Senator, over whether to allow tax hikes on wealthy Americans as a part of that budget bill that you're trying to pass. Bloomberg News is reporting that the House proposal would set the rate at 40% for taxpayers earning $1 million or more per year. That's up from the current top tax rate of 37%. Senator, would you support increasing the tax rate on wealthy Americans?
I'm not sure yet. I'd like to see the language. Here are my thoughts, Kristen, generally. I don't believe in making tax policy on the basis of class warfare. Mm-hmm. And I think the people who are raising this issue, they're entitled to, of course, but they're asking the wrong question. I listened under President Biden, my Democratic colleagues for 4 years asked, who needs to pay more in taxes? That, to me, is the wrong question. The right question is, what the hell happened to the money? And I hope that's the question that we address fundamentally in the reconciliation.
But, Senator, it sounds like you're leaving the door open to the possibility that you could ultimately, at some point, support an increase in taxes if you thought it was the best way to get that budget bill over the finish line?
Well, we're in the process of putting the bill together. And here's what will probably happen. The House and the Senate will spend about, hopefully no more than 60 days trying to reach a consensus. Everything's on the table. Mm-hmm. We won't reach a consensus. And then we'll have to go to the White House and meet with the president. And after a few hugs and a cup of hot cocoa, the president will arbitrate here and say this is in and this is out. And then he's going to have to put his muscle behind it to pass it. But this bill is important. It's our way of lowering prices. You lower prices by cutting spending, by deregulating the economy, and by designing a tax code that looks like somebody designed it on purpose.
The demographic divide has been exposed. College-educated white women are the only white group supporting DEI programs. The white knights. The indoctrination factories have programmed them to destroy their own culture. This is what your tax dollars fund at universities.
Here that we see this. White women with at least a college degree, the only group of white voters that really kind of is on the left politically, aligned with progressive causes, democratic politics. Give you an example here. It's that DEI question, right here that we asked about in our poll. We had two big statements we read to voters. Basically, do you want to continue DEI programs or do you think they should be ended? And again, look at this divide here. White men, no degree, end it. White men with a degree, end it, they say. White women, no degree, end it, they say, by double digits. And then white women with a college degree, completely different by a nearly 40-point margin, they say, to continue DEI. See this.
How ridiculous. Now check this out. The White House panicking after Harvard's shocking response to their own letter. Now they're blaming Harvard. Classic deep state, create a crisis, deny responsibility. The globalist puppets can't even keep their conspiracy straight.
Actually, just sort of, okay, so the White House's position is it was malpractice by Harvard to not realize that this letter was so outrageous, it probably wasn't true. I mean, that letter came from. I mean, I think that statement actually just sort of gives away the whole game. Essentially, the argument that we're hearing there from May Mailman at the White House is they should have known. They should have known there was something wrong. They should have picked up the phone and said to us at the White House, hey, guys, this looks like a mistake. I think it's pretty obvious where the fault lies, though.
I mean, Ellie, could you imagine if Harvard had responded to this letter by saying, okay, we'll meet these demands, and actually that they had been sent in error to them?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Look, this is serious stuff. I mean, this is a major showdown that is escalating by the day. You know, if Harvard had acquiesced to these demands, I mean, it would have changed the institution and compromised the institution forever. But I'm interested to see now what happens next. Now, does the White House withdraw this, or do they sort of decide, whoops, we're pot committed now, and we're going to have this fight through to the end?
Even Chuck Todd admits the truth. The establishment tried to cancel Trump and silence patriots after J6. They weaponized big tech and media law firms against him. Now Trump is fighting back, and they're terrified.
Inoperable. There's no doubt Trump wants some revenge.
Sure.
Right? On the law firms, on press, whatever, you know. But let's not beat around the bush. All these institutions did want to cancel Trump.
Yeah.
Did want him inoperable in mainstream public. You know, I think the biggest mistake, and I did not follow the Pied Piper on this one, which was this idea that we deplatform everybody post January 6th. This is a democracy. This is the First Amendment. And you know, all of a sudden now you've got law firms or what's going on and all this stuff. It's like, look, that was a bad moment. That doesn't mean, look, I understand the passion of that moment.
Right.
Yeah. But my God, the whole point of the Constitution is to protect minority rights, not majority rights. Yeah. The whole damn thing was written to protect minority rights. And so, yeah, you may not like that speech, but speech is speech. And the decision to deplatform bit mainstream media in the ass. Why? Okay, Donald Trump started his own information ecosystem. How do you like them apples now?
Right.
And then, you know, I sit here, it's like traditional media, oh, what's happened?
Yeah.
You did try to deplatform him.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. Somebody ought to come up and say, this was a mistake. There's no doubt.
Wow. Chuck Todd. Remember when they called us violent? The Democrats compared Trump to Hitler for 10 years. They weaponized the courts to try to imprison him. This led to 2 assassination attempts that Trump miraculously survived. The real political violence comes from the left. Here's more.
Murderers in the history. You want to talk about violence against political opponents? Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a threat to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to Hitler, one of the worst mass murderers in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political violence that has led to 2 heinous assassination attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political violence because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political violence. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold.
The mainstream media won't show you this explosive truth about Trump's second term. The deep state's in full panic mode as he reclaims America from the globalist cabal. So there you have it. The deep state thought they could destroy Donald Trump through endless investigations, media smears, even politicized court cases. Instead, they created a president who's no longer interested in playing nice or making friends in Washington. He's only interested in results, from reinstating presidential authority over immigration to dismantling corrupt bureaucracies. Trump is doing exactly what he promised in 2016, but with a new resolve in forged in the fires of persecution. As Ann Coulter put it, you don't want to make Donald Trump mad. That's when things really get done. So here's the question. Is the deep state's war against Trump the greatest political miscalculation in modern history? Or do they know exactly what they were doing? And the chaos was always the point. Drop a comment and show your American spirit by supporting the Next News Network. Hit our merch shop down below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.